Okay, fantastic. Well, I'm thrilled that you guys are staying, which is wonderful. So yeah, the tools that I use to do this, and if anybody can show me a different or better set of tools, I'm completely open-minded. But I've been developing these ideas, most of which are not original. They are adaptations and evolutions of standing on giant shoulders, other people's ideas. But I've tried to bring them together in a way and use them more comprehensively than I've seen elsewhere, and fold them into every corner of our lives as a family, as individuals. I mean, right down to, if I felt that sense of helplessness when you see a homeless person, laying on the side of the street with the begging bowl. I'm very reluctant to put money in the hat or the begging bowl, because you don't know whether you're feeding a drug habit or whatever. But there's also a great sense of, responsibility and shame and on my part for the fact that we allow people to be in this situation. So I have a rule, which is that every time I see a homeless person, whilst I'm very unlikely to support that particular homeless person, because I can't be sure that what I do for them is really going to help them, it might just be buying them booze or something worse to stick into their arm, but I will go back home and systematically help 2 other homeless people that day. So there's double the impact. I didn't help that one, but I will help 2 others. I can feed a homeless American, for example, for 12 US cents. And there's a charity that within B1G1 that rescues food. So they have relationships with restaurants in the States that would otherwise throw food away because they can no longer serve it. But there's nothing wrong with that food. So they have volunteers that collect the food from participating restaurants. They repackage it and they distribute it to those in need, including the homeless in the States. And the net cost of doing that is 12 cents. But it's not just the fact that it's the food is feeding someone, but it's actually reducing landfill. It's reducing all the emissions that come from the landfill. It's reducing our need to produce quite so much food in the first place. So there's more of it to go around in other parts of the world. It unlocks so many other positive things. And I choose to do that twice. At the other end of the spectrum, if my football team wins, my football team is what? This is soccer, proper football, as we would regard it in the UK. My football team wins, which isn't very often. They're Watford FC, Elton John's club. Then I fund a day's worth of access to sports as a therapy to celebrate the fact that they occasionally win. And there are so many other things built into our behaviours and lives. So B1G1 is a set of tools that makes that possible. Now, the B1G1, as you'll see, and I'll explain their financial model in a few minutes. They charge a little bit of money, $1 a day typically for most of us, to use the tools, and I'll explain why they do that. But I'll step in and pick up the cost for a couple of months for you if you'd like me to, so that you can try this from the inside. Because it's one thing seeing it from the outside in print, but it's only when you're actually inside using it and seeing how and feeling how joyful and how easy and how simple it is that it really comes alive. So I'll happily help you in all of those ways. But what I'm going to do now is jump into my B1G1 account and so close down a few bits which are currently blocking my view. The Zoom bar's in the wrong place. So I've logged into my B1G1 account, stevepike.com, and I'll get you set up with this. We'll go through the sign up process in a minute if you would like to, and I'll pick up the cost for you. At its heart is what I like to think of as Amazon for kindness. And it was beautiful that, that kindness word came up in so many of the quotes from earlier, because I've always referred to this as Amazon for kindness, in the same way that Amazon is this big online shop where we can find and pay for whatever. If I want an alarm clock or a stapler or a mouse or anything else, I can go on Amazon, type it in get rid of that off my screen, go away, annoying Microsoft things. I could just type into Amazon, can't I, and find anything else. But what I can't do on Amazon is unlock kindness. But this is a big online shop at the heart of B1G1 with 500 or so projects where I can use the same kind of keyword searches that I could on actual Amazon. This is nothing to do with Amazon. I'm just using Amazon for kindness as my metaphorical way of explaining it. And I can search for anything and hopefully find it. What I've actually done is an open search, and I've sorted them by low cost. So you can see here that these are the projects that cost 1 cent or less to unlock a day's worth of kindness. The coffee shop, You know, it charges what, $3 or $5, depending on the country, for its cup of coffee. When you chose water, or I chose water, that cost the coffee shop less than 1 US cent. So it's not, and when you think they had the queue of all 12 of us going to them because of the 1 US cent that they were giving on water, it's remarkably inexpensive. Now, part of the genius of this is what B1G recognise is, okay, that we can tell, can't we, that bit of kit there does not cost 1 US cent. That's $1,000 or more dollars. I have no idea exactly how much, but I am an accountant. I do understand the concept of a fixed cost. You know, the $1,000 fixed cost for purchasing that pump is going to then be used by many people for a long time. So they basically divide the $1,000 by the number of people in the village and the number of days that it's going to deliver water to work out the per person per day funding cost. In fact, the cost for a whole year's worth of water for one person is $1.47. So it's less than one. So this coffee shop could sell 147 cups of coffee, sorry, 365 cups of coffee, give 1 day of water for each cup of coffee, and at the end of the day or week, it's cost them $1.47. You can see how it's so easy to factor this into what the business does. And it's incredibly straightforward. If they wanted to, if I wanted to, if I had a coffee shop and I wanted to say, okay, for every cup of coffee we sell, I'm going to fund a day's worth of water, this is how we would do it. I would drag across the words, we sell a cup of coffee. It says, when we sell a cup of coffee, that's, remember I put up these two bits and said, when good things happen in our that matter to us, we make something good in the world. On the right of the screen there, you can see in the middle, it says, when we sell a cup of coffee, we give a day's worth of water. If that's what we want to do, we click create. That's it, done, set up once and forever. And in a second, you'll now see there at the top of the list is that when we sell a cup of coffee, we give a day's worth of water. If let's say the coffee shop at the end of the day had sold 156, not one, that was 156 cups of coffee, good coffee shop making loads of money. It can simply add that to its cart, check out on pages like you would do on Amazon. And I'm doing this specifically. Oh, the mouse is. We're lucky we're able to talk. Actually, my broadband supplier was down for 10 hours today and only came back on 2.5 hours before we went live. So I had no way of joining this. Anyway, that's why I think it's still a bit playing up a bit. So if I really wanted to, if I'd sold 156 cups worth of coffee, I can provide 156 days worth of water for $1.56. I could either put my credit card in to fund that, or I can preload credit, which is what I've done. So I put some money in here, and then I can just use that credit. I'm drawing down on that credit, and it happens. As soon as it processes that, it's drawn down on my credit, and it will tell us in a sec, it will summarize on the screen, you're given 156 days. That's how, up here, the share bit where we can share our scorecard, it knows how many days worth of water because I've funded 156 days. It's now added that 156 when this page loads up. We're using quite a lot of bandwidth. Remember the numbers that I showed you before, my 6.4 million, 6.2 million? They've just been increased by 156 now to reflect the 156 we just bought. Also, there's some widgets I didn't show you. I've provided 4.6 million days of water, planted 11,333 trees, 604,000 meals, and so on. So it's another way of analyzing the 6.2 million. Each of these numbers has been live real-time updated. And all I did to put them on my website was, like, for that one, for example, I just clicked on that bit of code, copied it. That's the HTML. I pasted it onto my website once 7 years ago. And for every single minute of every single day in the last 7 years, I've got live real-time data showing our impact. That's how easy this stuff is to do. So at its heart, we've got this Amazon for Kindness, where there are hundreds and hundreds of projects. We can sort them by keyword. We type in a keyword like, I don't know, tree, for example, and it will find projects that are in some way, form related to trees. Or we can do an open search. We can search by the Sustainable Development Goals. If our focus is on, SDG 2 about eliminating hunger, we can just search for projects around that. Or we can search for projects that help a particular kind of beneficiary, projects that help animals or children or the disabled. So there's all, and land in particular countries or particular regions of the world, or even tax deductible in your region. I personally don't, I'm an accountant, and I don't care one iota as to whether what I do is tax deductible or not. That's not the point to me, but some of them are tax deductible as well. So firstly, there's this Amazon for Kindness that allows us to find and fund. acts of kindness at the push of a button. But I think the real power is this idea of systematic kindness. So, you know, we have random acts of kindness. We have a random act of kindness day, and people often talk about random acts of kindness. That's lovely, but so much more powerful are systematic acts of kindness where we bake it into our behavior. If randomly, every now and again, the coffee shop said, oh, we'll give a day's worth of water. That's, excuse me, I need the water, don't I? Actually, I'm going to drink some. A day's worth of water or a kindness act randomly is nice, but so much more powerful to link it. Every single cup of coffee unlocks a day's worth of water or whatever. So this idea of systematic acts of kindness, and B1G1 is really brilliant for that. So if we go back to, I said that every single morning when I wake up in the morning, and I showed you on my to-do list, didn't I, this idea that I make 17 things happen. Here are the 17. When I enjoy another day of life, I provide a day's worth of access to health education for a child. When I enjoy another day of life, I give a 1 day's worth of beekeeping support to a farmer. Another day of life, 1 day of access to a bed net. There are 17 of these. If I went through this menu, you'd see all 17. So every morning I get up and I just simply add them to my shopping basket. And then I check out and pay. And because I'm doing that daily, it creates a real sense of connection, and, you know, it roots me and grounds me and puts a smile on my face and spring in my step and joy in my heart. So I've set those up, and we can set up an unlimited number of these with a B1G1 account. Here's just an example of one, just to show you what's possible with this kind. So this is what I would call a fixed giving, in the sense that I've decided that when this trigger happens, a singular nice thing is going to happen in the world. You know, the third one down there, when the trigger happens, which is I wake up and I'm healthy and safe, I'm going to give a day's worth of health education. But actually, I could decide that every morning I'm going to let someone else choose for me what that act of kindness is, in the way through that type of QR code we saw before. So I've got to B1G1 allows both types. We haven't seen this type before, which is why I'm focusing on it. But it also gives you this beautiful little bit of embeddable code, again, completely free. So if you decided, for example, that there we go. If you decided that when you get a new customer, you're going to give a day's worth of medical support, this is merely an example for new customer, replace that with anything else that's good for you. You could link it to anything that's good in the world, in this case, a day's worth of medical support. If I copied that bit of HTML code there, it's now up here on my clipboard, paste that once onto my website, and when someone hovers over it, look what happens. It actually reveals the number of days of medical support provided. So you can go public, you can tell the story of what your business is doing. You know, when you buy my book, or when we have a consulting session, or when you come to one of my courses, or, you know, and in fact, you know, as a speaker, having a QR code you can put on your PowerPoint behind you and get the audience to get out their mobile phones and make something wonderful happen whilst they're sitting in the room is magic. I can tell you, it's really magical. So we've got all of this kind of functionality. We can create these fixed giving where when one thing happens, we make one thing happen in the world, and we're in complete control of those choices. But the second way, and this is the new bit of functionality which I love, is what B1G1 calls an engagement tool. And this is what we saw in the coffee shop. This is where we can let the other person choose. Now, I'm actually doing some major work in the UK with schools, and we're folding this into, you know, you get your homework done, you can choose to make something good in the world. You wear your uniform all week and you can choose to make something good in the world. The teachers will have a QR code that the kids can scan, and they can choose whether to feed a child or whatever as a reward for the behavior that the school wants to encourage. So I've set that up. One of the leaders at one of the schools, I've thanked her for everything that she's doing. Her name is Helen. So she was able to choose between a year's worth of water, food. And this cost me $3.65. This is a key strategic contact of mine who's going to be embedding this in one of the most successful schools in the UK. And I blew her mind for $3.65. But I mean, these ones up here, this cost 9 cents for 2 of those. And in some cases, 1 cent. So because Helen has absolutely no idea how inexpensive this is. In fact, let me show you what I sent to Helen was the QR code. So the link. There's the link, and I just paste it over here. I sent her a link through LinkedIn, actually, as it happens. Paste it. She then clicked on the link. It took her to this page. So I wanted to show you how beautiful they can look. As a thank you for everything you do, Helen, I'd like to invite you to choose one of these lovely projects, and the Pipe family will make it happen on your behalf, so that together we can have an even bigger impact even bigger positive impact on the lives of children across the world. She's an educationalist. In fact, it's the school that my kids went to, so that's why we go back, and she's done lots for our family over the years, so I was allowing her to make this choice, and she was blown away by it. This could be your customer, this could be your team member, this could be your supplier, this could be a prospect, this could be a delegate in an event, this could be your children. When I did this for my physio the other week, I got a problem with my knee, and as a thank you to the physio, obviously I paid his bill, but as a thank you, I also created one of these for him, Carl, and I said, what I'd love you to do with it, if you fancy, because he mentioned he's got 2 young children, is open this up with the kids and let them choose the kindness that they're going to unlock in the world, because it's starting to create these better global citizens by them being able to choose which kindness to unlock. And that's why I'm keen on working with schools, with Helen and other schools, because if we can get this kind of behavior, this kind of way of thinking, not the fatalistic, there's nothing we can do, the world's in a mess, it's sad, isn't it? But, you know, what can I do? Actually, let's systematically build these little micro impacts into our behavior as a family, at school, in our businesses, because they will add up. I mean, the B1G1 community as a whole has given something like 350 million. So my 40 million is a good chunk of that, but it's still only a small proportion. You know, there's thousands of us doing this stuff around the world, and it's hugely uplifting. So you've got all of that kind of functionality built in, and you can create one of these. These are unbelievably easy. If we wanted to create a new one, which is, I don't know, thanks for being here. There you go. Thanks for being here. If I wanted to add in, let's say, just randomly, that project, and that project, it's the same Amazon for kindness. There they are. They're in it already. All I need to do now is decide whether I'm going to set a limit on the redemptions, so that maybe it does get used 1 million times and I go bust. So I could set a limit, and okay, that can be used 45 times or 1 time or 1,000 times. So you're in control. Once you're happy with it, just save it. That's it. That's the sum total of what's involved in making this happen. And now that link exists. There's the QR code, ready just to give to people on download, and there's the HTML link, and that will exist. This is not exactly hard to do, and so incredibly powerful. So we just created that in a nanosecond. The thanks for being here, those 3 random projects, all that functionality now works, except it would have your name rather than stevepipe.com at the bottom. So you can see how powerful, how flexible this is. We have this Amazon for kindness, have this way of building kindness and linking it with what matters to us. And then we have this way of reporting the score and embedding those widgets that we just looked at. These are my widgets, of course. There's 6 million days worth of help, broken down by project, broken down by each of the SDGs. Internet is very slow, bandwidth being used up because we're talking, but it's so powerful and so simple, isn't it? The one, so I'd really love to get you set up with this if you would like to, and I'll give you the link in a second. B1G1 is not mine. Just like Jeremy, I'm a member of this community. I've been paying them to use these tools for the last 12 years or so, in the same way that I pay Zoom to use their tools and Dropbox to use theirs and so on. And it's much the same kind of model for most businesses. If your turnover is less than 150,000 sales, annual sales less than 150,000 US dollars, but they don't check whether you are or not, but it's just a self-declaration, then it's $1 a day, the equivalent of $1 a day. It's payable either annually or monthly. There's a money back guarantee over the first month. If you pay monthly, then you can stop at the end of any month. So it's a $40, $38 decision or so in month 1. I'll pick up the cost for the first couple of months if you would like me to. But let me explain why there's a charge, and I think why there's a cost in the same way there's a cost for using Dropbox and Zoom and all those other things. Obviously, there are real costs, but I think this is part of the genius of B1G1. And again, I'm going to use my hands. There are 2 legal entities in the B1G1 world. There is B1G1, the charity, which is actually a US-based charity, and there is B1G1, the social enterprise. I think it's a 501c US charity, if that means anything to anybody. It doesn't really to me, but it's a proper US charity. Although administratively it's headquartered in Singapore, which is very supportive of charities. So anyway, when I gave the $1.56 a few minutes ago to fund the 156 days of water, my $1.56 went from my bank account to B1G on the charity, and they passed every single cent of that, all $1.56, to the project, the charity in Kenya that was installing that pump. Because B1G1 doesn't install pumps and feed children and plant trees. It due diligences other charities on the ground around the world really carefully. You can see all the due diligence in criteria. And then it effectively acts as a channel, a fundraising channel for them. But it doesn't charge the charity and it doesn't deduct anything. So the $1.56 goes from me to the B1G and the charity, and they pass it through to the charity on the ground that's doing the thing I've chosen, the trees or the water or the education or whatever. There are no costs whatsoever deducted from that $1.56 for the fact that all this extraordinary technology that we've just been looking at has to be created, and all that due diligence around picking the charities and all the other stuff, all the compliance with charity law, etc., etc., etc. None of those costs are borne by the charity because that's where the social enterprise steps in. It picks up all the costs, 100% of the costs, apart from the bank charges, which are paid by the end charity in Kenya or wherever. But all the other costs are picked up by the social enterprise, which sounds great. Okay, wonderful. Wouldn't that be easy if every charity had a social enterprise that would pick up its costs? Because it begs the question, well, where does the social enterprise get its money from? And the answer is the $1 a day that I choose to pay them, and so do thousands of other businesses. Now, to me, there is a real clarity and simplicity and honesty in that model. We know that when we give through any charity anywhere in the world, there are costs. It's an absolute given. There are costs. There are compliance costs, technology costs, legal costs, audit costs. The list is staff costs. Even if you've got lots of volunteers, there are costs. Stationary costs. It goes on and on and on. When you give to, if I'd given $1.56 to any other charity I can think of, I have no idea where my $1.56 goes specifically. Some of it goes on those costs, and I'm not suggesting that's inappropriate, but I don't know how much my $1.56 goes on those costs. And I don't know, therefore, how much is left to fund particular projects. When I give to almost any charity, the only thing I can measure is how much money I've given them. I can't measure the impact created because they're not structured that way. Whereas with B1G1, I'm funding a specific impact from my $1.56, and for my $1 a day, I'm funding everything else. So there's this real transparency. I can judge, is $1 a day good value for money to use those mind-blowing tools and to put me in a position where my business and my family can do this stuff? To my mind, it's a no-brainer. And then as I give to individual projects, is 1 cent for a day's worth of water or $1.56 for 156 days, is that value for money? There's a transparency, there's an honesty, there's a straightforward clarity around that, where there isn't in the traditional charity model. The traditional charity model is you give them some money and you don't really know what they do with it. And you certainly don't know what difference it makes. So that's why B1G1 is structured the way that it is. And I personally think that's part of its genius. Because for me, then I can judge those two things. I can decide whether they firstly fit with my values and secondly fit with my budget. And do I believe that's the best possible way of spending a dollar in order to unlock the use of those tools in the day? Yes, I do. You may have a different opinion. But you have to pay them to use those tools. But if you need me to, I'll step in and pay for the first couple of months. And obviously, if you don't need me to, then please don't ask me to, but I'll gladly do so. The way that it works is you'll have to set up an account. And I can do that for you, but it's more time consuming, it's more cumbersome, and I certainly can't do that now. So if you want to do this now, this is what I propose. Set up the account, I'll give you the link in a second. And then if you want me to reimburse you for the first couple of months, just give me your PayPal email address, and I will transfer the money from my PayPal account to yours so that you're reimbursed for those first couple of months. So there's no net cost to you, but you pay it out now, and by within the next 24 hours, I'll have got the money back to you if you need me to. But if you don't need me to, please don't, because I can use that money in other ways with my family and elsewhere in B1G1. But if it's the difference between you being able to do this and not, then I don't want it to be the difference. So then I'll step in and pick it up. So excuse me a second. I'll copy and paste the link now, and then I'll open it up on my screen as well and just take you through it so we make sure it works properly for you. I don't want to just send a message just to Rhonda. Let me send a message to everybody. So that is the link. It's now in the chat box. I'll share my screen, and I've opened that link already on my screen, which should be not there, but this one. So when you click on that link, it should take you to this page, and there should be a little drop down menu here. So this is the one where you just tell it how big your organization is. And I was talking in terms of the $1 a day package, which is the vast majority of members, and certainly me as well. And if you wanted to do this not in a business context, but for a family foundation where you don't have any sales at all, so you're definitely in the $1, what they call the solo category. It doesn't mean there has to just be you. It's a turnover rate, a sales rating, not a number of employees rating. And then you can toggle between the annual or the monthly. So the annual figure for a smallest business is $365 a year. So that is the $1 a day I talked about. If you would prefer to pay monthly, then it's, instead of being $31 a month, it's $38. So there's a little bit of a premium, just as there is with Zoom and Dropbox. If you pay monthly, it's a bit more expensive than if you pay annually. So you've got two little drop downs here, one to pick your size, probably the first one to decide whether you want to pay monthly or annually, either $38. And as you say, if you go the monthly option, I'll pick up the first couple of months for you. If you'd like me to, I'll reimburse you. And then crucially, you can see it over my shoulder. The book's called Rise. If you type in Rise in the referral code there, they will know that it's me that's introduced you to this. And that serves one particular benefit for me, which, well, two benefits actually. First benefit, which is they will include however many days of help you go on to provide within my grand community total. So if you remember, my personal target is to help unlock 100 million days of help. Whatever you unlock will be included within my community total because of that Rise code in there. And secondly, they will put some credit. They'll put $50 or something in my account, not for me to use, but for me to give away. So it means that if you use that Rise code, then I'm able to make even more good things happen in the world and also keep track of our collective impact. So make sure Rise is in there, and it's probably pre-set up because that's the link I gave you. It should be. Pick your turnover, whether you want monthly or annually. You can't do it through here, but if you're really, really enthusiastic about this, I can get them to extend to you an offer, which Paul Dunn does make, which is what he calls 5 for 3. If you know, at one end of the scale is I'll dip my toe in for a month or two and see what this feels like for a month. Great, go the monthly option. If you'd rather save a bit of money, go the annual option. If you really know you want to do this thing, then Paul, when he's on stage, does what he calls a 5 for 3. So he'll give you 5 years worth of membership for the price of 3. So that's a long-term thing. You can't do it through the website. If you want the 5 for 3, tell me, and I will get Paul, someone from within the B1G1 team, to make that work for you. But so that's by far the cheapest way of using this, but only if you really envisage it being long-term, which I do, maybe you do as well. But I'm just putting all the options out there. The simplest option is to go monthly and dip your toe in. So your call, really. And then you put your details in there. If you do that during this call, then, which will be awesome, then I'll be able to, and just email me with your PayPal email address if you need me to reimburse you. I will do that within the next 24 hours, possibly not tonight because it's nearly midnight here and I do want to go to bed fairly soon. But I've hopefully shown you how you can get into the technology. I've given you the link. I will be there to support you at every turn. So if you want to jump on a one-to-one call, how do you make this work in our business? If you want to, once you've signed up, give me your login details, I will get you set up. I'll actually put in all the parameters and things for you from inside your own account so that it works. And then we can jump on a Zoom call and I can show you what I've done and then give it back to you, and you can change your password so that I don't know what it is, and then you're in control again. So I'll help you in whatever way you need me to. But ideally, to capture the, I know I've had these kind of conversations, whether it's with groups of 1,000 from a big stage or 150 on a large webinar or small groups like this. I kept the stats. I know that if people don't take action now, they never do. Well, 95% of people don't. It's good intention. The road to whatever is paved with good intention, isn't it? It's about seizing the moment and taking action. So if you really want to do this, do it now, I would suggest. And if you're not sure, well, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But please don't kid yourself that you'll do this tomorrow, because no one does. It's kind of now or never is my experience. So really, that's what where I wanted to get you to at the moment. And my hope is, and if you do sign up now, by the way, it will come through into I'll get a notification because you've used the RISE code in my email box, and I will celebrate I will celebrate massively if you do it now. I don't think I've got any of those notifications yet. I know it'll just take a couple of minutes to go through and make that happen. And hopefully you will want to do that. But any questions?
Yes. How do I do it now and still be connected here? If I push that button, am I going to be off to Zoom?
No. Zoom will stay open, and that will just open up a new tab. Do it now, V, if you want to. It will just open up another tab. Zoom will still be open. I've done this many times with people on these live events, and it is unbelievably gratifying for me when B1G1 notifies me in real time that V or Mike or John or whoever has just joined. And I always give them a massive shout out as well. So yeah, you'll be able to click on that link now and do it live now. And then if you have any problems, I can help you.
Okay. I have a question.
Yeah, Yvonne.
I'd like to use PayPal. It's asking for a credit card.
Yeah, I don't know what the reasons are, but they will only take a credit or a debit card. And there's nothing I can do about that as far as I know, but Jeremy's got his hand up. Will they take Bitcoin, Jeremy?
No, I know back when they first started, and Paul said he wants to give 100% straight through to the charity, and people were paying with their MasterCard or Visa card. And then some smartass contacted them and said, oh, you're not giving 100% to the charity because 1.5% comes off as the MasterCard charge. And so Paul went, good point. And Paul started paying the 1.5% out of his own pocket for a while until someone notified MasterCard and said, look, can you cut this guy a deal? And MasterCard and Visa then said, okay, we're not charging anything. So PayPal will still charge that 3% or whatever, but MasterCard and Visa have agreed for B1G1, they don't take a cut at all. Yeah.
Well,
with that information, do you use Venmo? Because that's PayPal. I have a PayPal account, but my email to my PayPal, I don't have access to anymore because I've lost the codes and it was in Germany.
Well, either you can set up, and if you need me to reimburse you, V, then if there's some other way of me transferring the money to you, I'll do that. However works. Do it by bank transfer. PayPal's just really quick and slick.
I'm talking about she said that it doesn't use PayPal, it uses the credit. I have a Venmo credit card. Does that?
I would imagine, well, as far as I know, any credit or debit card will work. Yeah, I don't think there's a restriction on that. Even probably Amex probably works.
Okay.
I've never tried.
I'm about to do it. My daughter and I joined a emotional intelligence leadership program. She's ahead of me. She just graduated yesterday. I start tomorrow, and she just raised. I just want to brag a little on the win thing. Over $25,000 for 3 schools to be built in Uganda, and
Wow.
done that in a matter of less than 3
awesome.
months.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to tomorrow sharing this with my VIP group to say this is the way that we can all make an impact. I mean, I've been crying because I'm like so emotional.
I wonder whether you were crying. I saw you, and I often cry, so I get that completely because that's who I am too. I'm going to go get my card and see if I can do this while you're still here, because I'm a little shy with technology, but my daughter held my hand through the first part. It will work beautifully, I promise you. Yeah.
If anybody's got the chat box open, you are able to copy the chat if you want to keep any of those links. You have to have had the chat will only show you what happens after you open it. So if you haven't had it open, it won't work. But down the bottom of the chat box, you'll see some icons and then 3 little dots. If you tap on those 3 dots, you've got the option up the top to save the chat. It is turned on. Not every Zoom call does it, but we leave it turned on so people can use it.
Great, thank you. I didn't know that it only allowed you to do that with chat comments after you join the chat. That's interesting. Thank you for educating.
Yeah, when you turn the chat on, you'll only see it from then. You won't see anything that happened beforehand.
Fortunately, I turned the chat on right at the very beginning, so that's fine.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I don't know when I did it, just when I wanted to type in right, I think, but I'm not.
Okay, well, you'll have the links that we're talking about.
Yeah. So how do I push save for this?
Just down the bottom of the chat box, there's 3 little dots. You see a number of icons and then 3 little dots. tap the three little dots, and the first item there is save the chat, and it'll save it to your computer.
Yeah, it worked
It
for me.
is- So I've entered the credit card and it says save with link. Is that, do I click on that?
I don't know what that means, but yeah, I would click on that because I having worked with them for 12 years, and Jeremy can confirm this as well. This is an incredibly high integrity organization. So I don't know what that link that means exactly, but trust me,
Oh,
will work perfectly.
yeah, it takes me to an autofill your card is what it says.
Right.
So
Okay. Yeah.
we're getting there.
Brilliant.
Oh, US is $76 a month.
It's that's because you're on the larger size business. There should be a pull down menu. Remember I showed you that pull down?
Yeah, I said I'm looking at membership package and it says small, but
Yeah,
Solo.
but there's one above that which is solo. That's the one I
Oh,
would suggest
okay.
you go for.
Thank
V.
you. Yeah, it's
solo,
all
and
been a
that
little
brings it down
fast
to
for me.
38 a month. Yeah.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Okay. Did you hear? Oh, how did you hear?
Yeah, you could just put my name in there if you would, if it asks you for that.
It's,
Yeah, it does.
it's actually, oh, well, if it goes others, maybe it actually doesn't let you select all it doesn't allow me to say Steve Pipe. It's
Well, they'll know anyway because of this
Oh,
rise
good.
code there.
So
that-
I
that
attended
is-
an event. I suppose I attended an event, didn't I?
Yeah,
Yes.
you attended an event, and there might then be another box that said whose
Ah, which event? Yes. Here you go.
Yeah.
Steve
But
Pipe.
if you say an event with Steve, then they'll know.
Steve.
But the rise is usually enough.
Yeah. Excellent. Oh, we're getting there.
Fabulous.
I don't have a company name yet. I'm really at the beginning.
It doesn't matter. Just put in your own name for the time being. You can change that subsequently.
Okay.
In fact, I tell you, when I'm showcasing this to people, I sometimes change my name to their business name briefly, so that when I'm showing it, it's got their data on, and it's got their name, and I can show them what it will look like when they've got their own. So I change my name all the time in the nicest
Okay.
possible way. So you'll be able to change yours subsequently.
Okay. It says log in to get started.
So
Woohoo.
you are up and running, I think, in which case
Yeah.
any second now. I can see that Yvonne Collier has joined as a result of our connection. I've got an email that says exactly that, Yvonne.
How good
From
is that?
Madison Training
Yay.
with a double D. I wouldn't have known it was a double
Well,
D.
that's it. 2 Ds and 1 S.
Yeah, that's how you spelt it. So yeah, the system works, and so we will now be connected on their database, so that as you make wonderful things happen in the world, your totals, not the monetary value, I'll never know what the monetary value is, but the number of days help or trees planted and so on will get included in my totals, which is fantastic.
Steve, I would love to take you up on your offer, not of the money back, but of you setting up the inside.
Yeah, if you email me with your login details.
Yes, I will.
And a link to your website, or just give me a bit more information about what it is that you do, Yvonne, then I can use that information to and your business address, because there's geolocation. Remember the map showed the impacts radiating out from wherever you're based. If once I've got your
So
address,
Sydney, Australia, yeah.
So if you give me your office address, or whatever's the appropriate address you want to be in the map, and a little bit of information about what the business does, just a link to your website will be fine with that, or your LinkedIn page, whatever. And then I can use that to set it up, and I just need your login details, Yvonne.
Okay, and login details. Yeah, I think that's right. And where did you say you put this on your website? Is that right? Is that the idea?
Let me show you the context that I put it on my website, just by way of example. So if I go to this is opening up my website, which I added a temporary homepage when my TEDx talk went live. It's me doing it there. I put that up right in front of all my other normal pages. So when we go through to this is my original homepage, and you can see I've got the homepage, and then I've got a tab here right next to it, so about as prominent as it could be, that just says impact. And if I click on that, that's the page that I showed you before. So I just created a page on my website, prominently located it on my menu, and then I cut and paste those various bits of code. I was just about able to do that. I mean, I'm an accountant. That doesn't mean I'm any good at website design. I'm not. But my website service was sufficiently intuitive for me to be able to do that myself. Some people get their IT person to do it. I didn't have an IT person, so I just worked out how to do it myself. You might need a bit of IT help. It's not at all difficult, but it does depend from website provider to website provider how you do that. But once I'd copied them once 7 years ago, they've been in there ever since. So really powerful, worthwhile thing to do.
I think I probably set up a separate page like you did.
Yeah,
that's
the cleanest way of doing it, and I really like that way. Doesn't have to be as long as mine. You don't have to use all of the bits of embeddable code, but they're all there if you choose.
And so where do you actually get the embeddable code? So it just gives you.
And again, when we jump on a later call, I can show you, but it's really easy. So let's get actually into the website first. Here you go. So on your account will look exactly like this, except you'll have whatever name you've typed in when you registered instead of stevepipe.com, of course. You'll have the same menu bar as I've got. This one called Share, Impact Widgets. That's the place where the embeddable code is. And if we just scroll down a second, it's always behind an orange button. B1G1 uses orange buttons for key actions. So there'll be an orange button here on the right hand side there which says embed widget. If I click on that, you can actually see in this case the code. If I copied it, it now tells me at the top that's ready to paste. And then I use that myself, or your IT person can paste that. And it's the same, these orange buttons here, this is the sort of international shorthand for HTML code, that sort of less than / greater than symbol. And then that's on these. So that's where all the code comes from. Having a problem, V, or is it working?
Yes, I just did it, but I didn't see where where I put rise at, and
you did. It was there automatically because you can probably see on my screen. They've just told me that you've joined.
Oh yeah.
There you are, and using your own name as your business name for the time being. So yeah, the link that I gave you had Rise built into it by default, so that it just made it a bit easier.
Oh, that's brilliant.
That was
I'm like, oh no. It's like, and so tomorrow I begin my VIP program, and in this VIP program we'll have our own fundraising as a collaborative group, decide what we're interested in. Like my daughter just did the 3 schools in Uganda, and this is my contribution. I'm like shocked that this is, perfect for, I'm ready for tomorrow, because we'll be deciding what we want to contribute to, and utilizing this brilliant way to keep tabs on it is I'm like blown away that I'm able to have this available. Like
it's extraordinary, isn't it? Yeah. Well, I thank my lucky stars every single day that I'm able to use this, because I truly, as a 62-year-old who was really driven by my business until age 50. I mean, I probably worked way too hard in it. It did very well as a result, but and then when I made the decision to pass it to the management team, which was on my 50th birthday, there was then a void. There was this vacuum. I'd been obsessed with the business, and I was the figurehead for it, and I was the speaker, and all of our sales came from me standing up in front of large audiences and so on. And how was I going to fill my days? Where was the purpose coming from? We didn't have grandchildren at the time. The children were sufficiently old to have established themselves. They didn't really need us anymore. Yes, spent more time with my wife Carol, and that's wonderful, and that's been great for our 40-year marriage. But I needed something else as well, and this has just given me a sense of purpose and drive. And as I said, I wake up every single morning with a smile on my face and joy in my heart and spring in my step, knowing that I'm able to do something that makes a difference in a measurable, tangible way. And then I had the privilege, there's always the opportunity to go out and visit some of these projects on the ground. And in fact, in February, if you really like this, there's an opportunity to go with Paul and Masami, the two founders of B1G1, to Cambodia and see this stuff and see the recipients, the beneficiary charities. And I didn't go to Cambodia, I went to Kenya. That's when I saw the water that looked like mud, and experienced, you know, the extra. I mean, you think, well, collecting water, that can't be too hard. By definition, water is downhill from wherever you are. It's downhill somewhere. Often it's quite a steep downhill. You walk downhill with an empty bucket in the searing sun. That's okay, hard enough, okay. Walking back uphill with a heavy bucket in the searing sun, and you're the youngest daughter in the family. Well, I couldn't relate to that bit, but it was tough enough for me as a 55-year-old at the time. And I went with my youngest daughter as it happened, but she was 18, 19. I just can't imagine what that's like. So when you're actually able to be immersed in it, it was just such a revelatory, humbling experience.
I agree.
So I did take a study tour to Cambodia in January. I decided not to go because the money that it would have cost to go on the study tour, I can give away.
Well, I've been to Kenya, and I've been with the AIDS orphans, and I've been with the water wells.
Yeah.
And I agree. And I went to Peru to give school supplies, and now I'm starting over. And this is where I'm at, and so this is exciting for me because that's not on my budget to go all these other places. I used all my funds raising my kids doing it. Now my kids are grown, and I'm like excited that I can start at ground zero with this opportunity that makes such a big impact and has measurable, you know, whatever that's called, quantifying.
Quantifiable, measurable, audited, third-party, independent, verified data. Yeah, it's
this is exciting for my grandchildren, who are mostly adults. I have one 1-year-old like you that just turned 1, and so my daughter's starting all over again after raising wonderful grandchildren that want to help the world, but we didn't have this like tool. So I'm excited that I share it in this way.
This has been absolutely amazing, and thank you so much, Steve. And I'll just remind you all that for Steve, it's now midnight, and he's been going for nearly 3 hours. So I suggest that we say cheerio and get on with our day. And well done to those two who have contributed already, and Jeremy's already involved, as is Harry. So thanks. It's been a wonderful day, and God bless you all, and all the best with your mission, Steve.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank
Look forward to
you.
helping you all. Bye for now. And Jeremy, thanks so much for setting this up. And Rhonda, thank you for hosting today. And
that's all right.
Thank you, everyone, for being here and for being you.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Opportunity. Love you guys.
Lovely. Thank you, everyone.
Lovely to see you, Pat.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Rhonda.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.